What do I believe? That question is so cliche, but I find myself asking it every day because I'm constantly trying to find a way to keep believing. This son that's been prodigal for too long is too logical, and the world seems to want that more than faith. And every time I look at the night sky now, I wonder what would happen if I were to just die in that moment. Would I be considered the same as a Roman who nailed you to a tree because despite the sacrifices you made, my belief tends to bleed, and there's holes in my heart like there's holes in your feet, and every day this man can't decide if these trials are true, and so I cry, Father, forgive me, I know not what I do. I wish that I could just close my eyes. Maybe then I could see what the hell I'm thinking about the whole time when I wrestle with this vessel of flesh and blood, and the dirt that I was born from has been muddled into mud. Should I flood the thoughts of following a deity out of my mind, like when I read about how the Creator tried to reset mankind because our ideas of how we should be weren't quite fulfilled, and when we made choices, those choices got us killed? Well, what the hell? That's the definition of free will. If you don't like it, then why give it to us? The trust that was put into the dust that our bones are born from, and the thing that our blood becomes just a pile of dead cells, the remains and remnants of our physical selves. You cast us back into the earth because we were no longer worthy to go on living, despite the fact that you're supposedly so forgiving. Is that what you told those men and women as they were pulled down? And if someone's questions are put out, do they make a sound? But I'm a good Christian boy, so I'm not supposed to have doubt. I'm supposed to shout about reasons to follow you when I don't even have much proof that what I'm saying is true. My mother told me to never tell a lie, so I have to stop and wonder why, Father, faith is so important to you. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if you're real, and it really doesn't if you're not. But none of that matters because my personal beliefs are what define me, and my defining point is not to follow things blindly. So understand what I mean when I say that I believe in you. I do it as a decision, as a precision idea, not because it's predisposition. I've tried it both ways, and I've had days where I've never felt more hopeless, where the end of a rope was more inviting than a pastor, and the answers I got were just questioned faster and faster, but because people and paper say so, I'm supposed to call you master? No. Understand, it is not an onus for me to follow. It's just that I've wallowed in both types of libel. The atheist who despises religion without a reason, and the Christian who's never even touched the Bible. Neither one is better than the other, and yet they're constantly biting at one another like rabid dogs who are put into a fight show and were told to kill each other because their owners said so. Both are just as blind because neither of them seem to mind that neither have a mind. I hate being called a sheep because for too long in my life I've been asleep, and now that my eyes are open I have too much sight to be a tuft in a sea of white. You're the shepherd from the book and your Bible is the crook, and every time I try to look, it's around my neck and I am shook to the very core of my soul, which for all I know is just an empty and non-existent hole. I may be a sheep, but I have the mind of a man and the heart of a lion. I'd be lying if I said I always knew why I believe in you, but I do because I decide that it's true. Welcome to perception, where our reality is an invention, a misconception of what seems painless, and for me that's what's the least brainless. As soon as I raise an outstretched hand, it's to use my prayer to pick up a pen, because the instrument of God is the minds of men, and my version of worship is to start writing again. Religion discourages critical thinking, but I believe that brains aren't there to be atrophying and shrinking, so I need to believe in you because the alternative's death, and I should always make sure such questions are asked with bated breath. We always talk about how you exercise such infinite patience, yet you constantly show disappointment in your creations. Well, excuse me, but I think there's been a miscommunication, because if there's no clarification, then my faith is no more than dictation, a causation of mental castration, an oration to the narration of the negation of salvation. The formation of this predation predates my expectation and delineated domestication. It was only facilitation for the glorification of a possible hallucination. I believe in you because I choose to. Because if I'm wrong, then I have too much to lose. You don't lose much, except one of 7 billion grains of sand among the plains of your almighty hands. But how I define my faith doesn't really matter. I believe because I have to believe that someone knows better than these random synapses firing blanks through my mind, which is superficially blind, and I can only hope that you respond in kind, unless of course you're too busy with those dying to pity the land full of those who are just trying to understand, while you're apparently too good to be seen through the eyes of man. I don't know how to stay quiet if you didn't make me a psychic. If my thoughts without intention, I'll be glad to be Isaac. Take me up to the top of the mountain, tie me down and raise the sword, swing it high, and hear the cry of one you killed to serve the Lord. If your hand hadn't been stopped, you'd killed an innocent man, and if we're defined as your sheep, you just spilled the blood of the lamb. This grain of sand is burnt to ash, and my flesh is as black as coal. The whip is ripping off my skin, and the crown of thorns is in my skull. Life is off to rise, so let this stand my finest plea. Let burn the ashes in the sky. Do you on high even want me? I'm not trying to be wrong. I'm just trying to be clear. Because if you didn't want me to wonder, then why the hell was I put here? I clearly won't get an answer. so I'll try to stay quiet and keep my mind in chains where it apparently belongs. I clearly can't right my wrongs, so I'll stop trying. Put down the pen and drown in the blood pressure that pumps the poison called thought and decay my rotting personality. If apathy is men's reality, then I don't want to open my eyes. At least in the dark, something can exist instead of turning on the lights and seeing nothing that I missed. I need to make sure that my faith is more than preconceived, so understand me when I say that I choose to believe. I believe because I've seen what I'm like without you, and I believe you make me a better man. That doesn't mean that I'm nothing without you, it just means that without you, I'm not worth a damn. You can take my hands and my ability to touch, you can take my eyes and make me blind, because the only world I need to see is the one I've made in my mind. I keep my psychoanalysis on par with mental paralysis, and my third eye's on dialysis to keep from being callous of my own analysis. I don't mind if people think I'm crazy and don't understand my point of view, because my definition of life doesn't rely on what they think I do. If you want to change my mind, then find another to govern, because if religion has taught me one thing, then it's how to be stubborn. If my questions are Sodom, I'll be a pillar of salt, and if you're dying for my sins, then it's the cross I'll exalt. But show me patience and relations, and I'll be Paul to Galatians. I'll build foundations against protestations. I'll be orations to nations. My vindication is that I'm stuck in superstitious stagnation. I stand on the shoulders of my brothers, not on the graves of the damned. I believe because I choose to. I think, therefore I am.